27 movies. Get comfortable, because I'm about to rank them. And if my rankings don't match with your rankings, and that's almost impossible considering, again, we're ranking 27 movies, don't be a jerk about it. You know who you are. All right, so interestingly, 4 MCU movies came out this year. We had 4 new entries. After too long a break, we were parched. And 2 of them are pretty high up on my list, but 2 of them are much lower down. So, I think that for the most part, these movies are getting better, but it doesn't mean that Kevin Feige is totally infallible. All right, so usually I would do this from worst to best, but with 27, we're going to start at the top with the creme de la creme and then work our way down to the curdled cream. All right, so number 1. Avengers Endgame. I love this one. I know a lot of you won't agree with this, but I just thought this was the perfect MCU movie. Wall-to-wall action and feels. This movie had everyone and everything. The Russo brothers, I think, this is the one they bowed out on. They were like, peace out. And they really know how to build a modern blockbuster. I've always told you that story that Steven Soderbergh said about watching someone at the airport fast forward to action scene. And it's like, Steven, that's the way he wants to watch the movie. What do you care? You should, instead of being disparaging about it, you should take note. I think the Russo brothers understand that, and I think that that's why their movies have incredible rewatchability factor. I just love Avengers Endgame. And finally, there were risks taken. I just love that movie so much. Number 2, Black Panther. This is more than a great comic book movie, but it is also a great comic book movie. This changes the whole perspective, the whole Black perspective, especially in entertainment, from looking backwards to looking forwards, to creating a city on a hill. And many people act as if Wakanda is a real place. And I gotta say, it often feels like it is a real place. I think it's a tremendous, not only piece of entertainment, but addition to society. No pressure for Black Panther 2, Ryan Coogler. And of course, it's made all the more poignant by the too early tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. All right, number 3, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Oh, that's pretty high up, isn't it? What can I say? The Russo brothers know how to build them, and Destin Daniel Cretton is a very strong student. He did a great job. I still feel that the bus scene in this movie is the best action scene of the year, and one of the best, period, in the MCU or any action movie. But this movie doesn't just have action, but he managed to get a ton of story in there too. No wonder he got a multi-picture deal over at Disney. And, fast-tracking Shang-Chi too. This movie is funny and heartfelt. I just absolutely adored it. As I said in my quote that Marvel used, top tier Marvel. And as you can see, it's a number 3. All right, number 4, Spider-Man No Way Home. And it's a little gimmicky, which is why it isn't higher up on this list. You might be like, that should be number 1, 2, or 3. Well, it's 4. It's pretty freaking high. I think a big part of No Way Home is the audience experience. And this is interesting to me because at the critic screening for No Way Home, crickets, a couple golf claps here and then, but it was not the reaction that you guys are experiencing when you go to see the movie. And that makes a difference. At the critic screenings for Endgame and Infinity War, everybody went crazy, even at the critic screening. Although I think they had snuck in some general audience in there to kind of give that reaction. But they couldn't because of COVID with No Way Home. And also it's a different studio. So that's actually very interesting when you think about it. I still remember to this day finding some tickets to take my parents to see Endgame. It was very tough to get tickets to that movie. So we went to the CMX. So it was a small theater with recliner seats. So not a lot of people in there. And no one reacted to that. And my parents were, as a result, that movie was okay. And I felt bad they didn't get that experience. And I didn't get the No Way Home experience that many of you are describing. But I still enjoyed the movie. We're living in the age of spoilers, which I also think dings this movie a little bit. That we knew pretty much everything that was going to happen. So in this case, it was just seeing it happen. And then it still felt like going on a ride. I still had a very fun time watching it, and it felt very Spider-Man-y, which was cool. I think it finally got us to the Peter Parker from the comics, which I'm a fan of. And also, while the middle to me was gimmicky and kind of SNL, like a Saturday Night Live sketch, the beginning of the film and the end of the film are some of the strongest Peter Parker moments I've ever seen, period, comics or movies. So it's a very good movie. It's just not as good as those other ones. All right, number 5, The Avengers. The first movie I ever saw that I was like, you know what? I feel like this is what it's like to read a comic book. That was so cool. I'll never forget sitting in the theater and the moment that thought struck me. This is where the MCU really got its mojo and began to build. Number 6, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. This is where Kevin Feige had the clever idea of mixing comic book movies with different genres. And here it was, of course, the spy genre. Oh, it was good. Captain America and his silo of characters really came into their own here, and it's where he started to surpass Iron Man. So it was a sad day for Iron Man fans like myself. And again, Russo brothers made. This movie has also very well structured. I can't believe other movies don't pick up on this, that you really have to sprinkle your strong action scenes throughout. You can't just have 2 or 3. You need to have like up to 5. And I think that's really important. Great action here. The Winter Soldier has still never been as cool as he was in this movie, but now he has emotions. All right, so anyway, he's still a very popular character. My father's favorite character, actually. All right, number 7, Thor Ragnarok. After one mediocre movie and one absolutely horrible one. Oh, foreshadowing the worst movie. MCU finally figured out not just Thor, but Chris Hemsworth's version of Thor, where they were like, I think they saw Ghostbusters and they were like, Eureka, he's the comedian. And he definitely is. Chris Hemsworth is hysterical. That movie is so good. I think pairing him with Taika Waititi was perfect. And Taika Waititi not only gave Thor Ragnarok, but Marvel Cosmic a very distinct vibe, which they're not being consistent actually in using that vibe. But anyway, fantastic film, evidenced by the fact that while all the other main tier Avengers are gone, Thor lives on because you just can't get rid of him now. And of course, Cate Blanchett's Hela was incredible, and I still hold out hope that she'll return someday. Number 8, Captain America Civil War. That airport fight, iconic. Love that so much. And again, the Russo brothers. Interesting questions were posed here about superhero culpability, which I agree with. I think they're the hard questions, but I respect the MCU for having the guts to ask them in what's, some people could just say, hey, it's entertainment. And then also the emotion of the final fight between Iron Man versus Cap and Bucky. He doesn't deserve that shield. I was very much on Team Iron Man. But you know what? That's the thing. The movie divided fans as well. And I think that's fascinating that the movie had that effect. People genuinely took sides. I don't know how you can. He killed Iron Man's dad. I'm not saying that Bucky should be, capital punishment, but there needs to be some punishment. All right, so anyway, great movie. Great movie. And then number 9, Spider-Man Far From Home. Because of Mysterio. Oh, I love this. Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio is so great. So good. Great reworking of the character. You might be like, how are you going to make Mysterio cool, today? And they found a way. Boy, did they. I love that he used to work for Stark. I thought, it's so great. The drone usage, it was beautiful. And I loved the Mysterio sequence. Talk about right out of the comics. That was one of the most incredible action scenes in the MCU or any comic book movie as well. And great use of Tony Stark, by the way, post-death, showing how his shadow still looms large over the MCU. I just loved it. I thought it was really, really strong. And then number 10, I'll tell you a funny story about number 10 in a moment, but number 10 is Doctor Strange. I did not like the trailers, as you recall. I thought they were very Inception ripoff, but I thought the movie itself was very trippy, and I really appreciated that. I liked bringing a different flavor to the MCU. Marvel, MCU Cosmic, MCU Mystic, which of course paves the way for Wanda and a very exciting Doctor Strange too. It can't be that bad if it's got Doctor Strange and Wanda in it and other characters. And then also, I thought this was also a very emotional film. I thought that when the Ancient One died and they slowed down time and they had that helicopter in the rain at the hospital, that was incredible. Incredible stuff. Now, what did I want to tell you about number 10? Doctor Strange wasn't originally my number 10. That was going to be Infinity War, but I looked at my top 10 and I felt that I wanted Doctor Strange in it, my overall top 10, because I wanted to show the variety of the MCU, which again, thanks to, Winter Soldier, Kevin Feige realized that he needed to have that variety and different vibes to different characters. And so I think that's really great. So I'm very happy with my MCU top 10. And if it's a lot to write down 27 movies down below. If you just want to share your top 10, I'll allow it. All right, so number 11, Avengers Infinity War. Now, some of you prefer this to Endgame. I don't get you at all. That's fine. You have every right to feel that way, but I don't understand it. I think part of the reason I don't like Infinity War, and maybe this is it, maybe I do understand you, is that I was Team Iron Man coming out of Civil War. So every time I saw Cap, I was like, I hate you. So maybe if you were Team Cap, you were like, yeah, Cap won. So I kind of have some problems with that. Also, I thought the blonde Black Widow, even when you explain it about Yelena post Black Widow, I did not like her look in that movie. She didn't feel like the character. It felt like the actress's choices rather than the character's choices. But I'll never forget that ending. That's why this is so high up. Also, out of respect, it is a major movie. But I'll never forget the ending when everyone got snapped, got blipped. And people's reaction, I'll never forget it being in the theater with people gasping, seeing who was chosen to go. And I mean, Spider-Man, of course, got a big reaction, but T'Challa got the biggest reaction in my audience, especially because it was right after Black Panther. And people were like, you just took him off the board? He just got here. That was incredible. Never will forget it. Number 12, Iron Man 2. I like it. I know this will be another controversial choice, but I love this movie. Maybe that, I think if you're a Tony Stark fan, you like Iron Man 2. It's very businessy with Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer, and the Monaco Grand Prix is so Tony Stark. What a great choice. I think it touches lightly on the Demon in a Bottle storyline. I still feel bad they never really got to do that. And then also Stark Expo. Who doesn't love the idea of Stark Expo? And also kind of linking Howard Stark a little bit to being like a Walt Disney type. I thought that was really strong as well. I also think they did a great job building up not only Tony's relationship with Pepper, but Pepper as her own character. And of course, it's the introduction of Black Widow. I didn't like this version of Black Widow very much, a little too cheesecakey. I know Scarlett Johansson didn't like it either, but a lot of fans liked it. And of course, the character went on to become quite popular. Number 13, Captain Marvel. That's right, pretty high up. I think this movie grows on you, as does Brie Larson in the role. Very solid story, intro of Skrulls with a big change from the comics where they're suddenly the good guys, although when Ben Mendelsohn's playing your lead Skrull, of course you're going to want to make them a good character, although he would be obviously a great villain, as Star Wars proved, but I really, really like Talos. This is another important point in the MCU, expanding the world of MCU Cosmic, bringing in Maria and Monica, very important family generationally to the MCU. And I do love the girl power elements in the movie, I gotta tell you. And I like a more down-to-earth female hero as opposed to a more princessy one like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. And I just love how powerful Captain Marvel is. It's going to be hard for me not to like the character, considering every time she shows up in the MCU, she's so badass. I love it. All right, number 14, Black Widow. Super weak, considering the character in Winter Soldier. But, and I think, no offense to the director, but I think it's her fault. And also, I think Scarlett Johansson maybe meddled a little bit too much as a producer and wanted more feels than action. And I think that, I liked the feels, but the third act of the movie is so horrible, it's hard for the rest of the film to recover. But up until then, great character moments. The introduction of Yelena Belova, who we all adore. And I like the other Black Widow characters as well. And I do like expanding the world of Black Widow and finally having other Black Widows on the board. I like what's come out of this movie quite a bit. Some strong action towards the beginning, even though it was very unrealistic with the characters being cartoony and bouncing off of stuff that would have killed them. Taskmaster, where utilized, very cool. And I didn't mind the twist, to be honest with you. Although I really wish they had used a female stunt person for the Taskmaster sequences, because I feel that undercuts the entire argument. And then also strong commentary on human trafficking of women with that opening credit scene and what they talked about towards the end. It didn't quite stick, but kudos for trying. All right, number 15, Spider-Man Homecoming. Pretty far down the list. Don't worry, we're still in the good movie territory. It's still a good movie. A lot of Sophie's choices here. I gotta rank them. And I feel like out of all the Spider-Man MCU movies, this one was the weakest. I think because Vulture never went anywhere. I liked this reworking of a classic Spider-Man villain as well. I thought making him, vultures go after carcasses and he's a junkyard guy who picks over superhero battle fights. I thought that was brilliant. But they never did anything with Vulture. Michael Keaton's going to pop up in Morbius, and I guess he was taken off the board for the MCU because he's decided to go to the DC multiverse. But I think it takes a lot of the wind out of the sails of this movie that nothing really came out of it, quite frankly. So that's why it's lower down, even though I did enjoy it very much. Number 16, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Another controversial choice, because I know many of you don't like this movie. Another sequel, which many people felt wasn't as good as the original. But I actually feel the opposite. in both cases. I thought this was pretty good. I think the team gelled more here. Also, maybe I was more just like, okay, this is what the team is. I'll accept it. But I liked a lot of the way that, particularly, I had such strong problems with the way the female characters were handled in the first movie. But here, I really liked what was done with some of the new ones. Nebula got a lot more to do. Love Nebula. Introduction of Mantis. Love Mantis as well. Fantastic character. And I gotta say, Yondu's funeral was beautiful. It made me cry in the theater. That was really gorgeous. All right, number 17, Iron Man, the first Iron Man. I don't like this movie. I'm sorry. I hate the ending with Jeff Bridges. I don't even really remember it. I think it totally fell apart. I've never rewatched it. I just saw it, I think, once in theaters. But you know what? I have to respect it because it's the Snow White of the MCU, the one that started it all. Number 18, and also I kind of feel like we relive these movies now so often now with What If and stuff where they have us revisit them. All right, so especially with the multiverse. All right, number 18, Eternals. Very cool VFX, some very awesome visuals, very strong performances from some of the cast. But until Kevin Feige shows where he's going with this, right now it seems like a pointless exercise. And I think having passive superheroes ended up being a really bad idea. All right, number 19, Ant-Man and the Wasp. It saddens me that this is so low down because there's so much potential with these characters. Trailers were amazing. Who knew well, I guess we could have guessed, but that's unusual for the MCU to put all the good parts in the trailers. I mean, look at this cast that's wasted here. Paul Rudd, who's so good in the other movies where other directors do a better job with him. Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer. What two pairings of Ant-Man and Wasp. And they can make things really tiny or really big themselves and objects. I mean, they had some good fun with that in this movie, but they're not doing what they really should be able to. I mean, think about how Ant-Man was used in Civil War versus here, or in Endgame. And you're like, what's happening in his own movies? I'll tell you what's happening. It's Peyton Reed's fault. I mean, it's frustrating. Also, I don't like that Evangeline Lilly's Wasp is made into a wet blanket character. She's the first leader of the Avengers. She's supposed to be really cool. That's not at all what the character is like in the comics. And so I don't like when women are in a group and they're the mom. You know, she should be as cool as everyone else. She certainly has cool powers. I love the ponytail she's rocking. It's frustrating to me. All right, number 20, Ant-Man, right behind it. Same thing. This one plays like a TV movie. Again, has a lot of potential, not at all realized. Number 21, Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, this isn't a total dud. James Spader saying there are no strings on me. Fantastic. Also, love the Disney synergy. This is, of course, where we got Vision. We got also Wanda and Pietro stepping up. There are some cool shots in this movie as well. But overall, it's very lazy on the part of Joss Whedon, and the Black Widow and Hulk stuff comes across as offensive, particularly in hindsight. This was Joss Whedon's last MCU movie, and you can see he already had one foot out the door. Number 22, Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't care for this movie either. I know a lot of people did. It did extremely well and is what launched Marvel Cosmic. But I just didn't gel with it. And I gotta tell you, I found the movie offensive, particularly towards women. From that woman who's left, as a one-night stand in Star-Lord's ship at the beginning, to how Gamora was really undercut as the deadliest woman in the galaxy. Not Zoe Saldana's fault at all, but just the way that the character was handled. 23, the first Thor. It's just boring and bland. Although, shades of Chris Hemsworth's comedic capabilities did shine through here. Like when he threw the glass down, he was like, another! Interestingly, I did not love Natalie Portman here. I don't think she was a great Jane Foster. So I'm interested to see if she can improve things coming back finally for Thor Love and Thunder. I mean, the Jane Foster storyline there is pretty difficult to mess up unless they changed a lot. But as is in the comics, it's pretty incredible. It would be hard for anyone to mess that up. Number 24, Captain America, the First Avenger. I know some of you swear by this movie as well, but I just did not like it. It did not work for me. Again, another movie that I felt was very TV movie-like. Number 25, Iron Man 3. Shane Black does seem like a great fit with Robert Downey Jr., and they have been in the past. But this movie is just too off the reservation with comic book continuity and ideas. Shane Black just too much wanted to do his own thing. And what he wanted to do with the Mandarin, that fake out, I mean, it was just too clever. It was too clever, and it was a really bad idea. But thankfully, Destin Daniel Cretton fixed that. Quite well, actually. Number 26, we're down to the bottom two, The Incredible Hulk. Edward Norton, I thought, was a very good Bruce Banner. I think in some ways a better Bruce Banner than Mark Ruffalo. But is a bad movie, and Edward Norton proved to be too difficult to work with. Oh, that was a mistake, Ed. All right, now number 27. The worst movie in the MCU is Thor: The Dark World. I'm very curious to see what other people's worst movie is. Again, you don't have to do all 27, but I would like to know what your worst film is. Your best and worst, I think, are very important. I just thought this movie, again, I'll just sum up my criticism of it. I had to apologize to the people I dragged to go to see this movie. They were not comic book fans, and I was like, come on, you're not going to see the latest MCU movie? Don't be that person. And then when the lights went up, and I was like, I'm so sorry. So that's Thor: The Dark World in a nutshell. All right, so that's my rankings of all 27 MCU movies. I think this will be an annual thing that I do because they're adding 3 or 4 movies a year. So that's my 2021 ranking of MCU films. I look forward to hearing your thoughts down below. Subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.